Hi, I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Bakemonogatari Season 1, Episode 11. Last episode, we saved Nadeko.
Yes, we did.
We did it. Even though that we didn't really cherish the thanks that we got for it because we were also attempting to save the person who cursed Nadeko to begin with.
Right. We didn't feel like we could claim that gratitude.
We were also hinted and given a little bit more information about the lore and mystery behind Araragi's vampiric past and how that connects to Shinobu. I need more, but I'm not going to get more, and I'm okay with that because it adds to the mystery of the show.
Mm-hmm. We also got a little more talking about, at least in terms of like, we were going to start thinking more about Araragi's future. I mean, we've had episodes where Senjugahara has brought up the future in terms of their relationship or an academic way of thinking about it. But the past kind of episodes have really opened up this idea of like, is Araragi going to stay in this path that we have seen since we started this series of continuously getting involved with different oddities? Is that his future? Is that a career path for him? Or a life goal? Or
is it even possible with his vampiric ties? And will he inevitably shut off that connection with Shinobu? Will there be consequences if he does it?
Is he keeping her alive?
Ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. Flashback. Cat back.
Oh, another cat.
Cat's back.
Lots of cats.
This
is Hanakawa. This is Hanakawa.
No! No wonder cats, right? Damn. Extremely early on. You're telling her that? What do you think's under the patch? Do you think it's whiskers or a cat scratch?
Makes more sense why we bumped into her on the Hachikuji arc at the park. Oh my god. I cannot believe we're getting this. No. No. We know that for her. The triangles make cat ears above her. What? What does it mean? Important person to you? You owe her. No, I owe her a lot. My debt. Class rep edition. Enhanced. Fail pressure. I'll never forget that. Are we back to present day then? We have to be. I love his hair being such an expression of him.
ran right past you. She's so quick. That tracks.
That makes so much sense.
Hmm.
そうなのかカンバルに礼を言わなきゃいけないってんなら僕もそうだし任せとけって。そうじゃあ小読お兄ちゃんに頼もうかな。洗濯してきれいにしたから小読お兄ちゃんから返してもらえるなら。
It's the swimsuit and the... You're gonna have to carry those.
じゃあ確かに。そうだ戦国聞きたいことがあるんだけどいいかな。忍のやつ。忍？僕やカンバルと学習塾アートに戻って夜遅いからってそこにいた金髪のちっちゃくて可愛い女の子。
Yeah.
あの子僕がいない時にお前に何か喋ったりした？そうか。あの子吸血鬼なんだ。まあ今は吸血
Pseudo vampire.
吸血鬼もどきって感じだけどな。あの子のせいで小読お兄ちゃんは。あいつのせいじゃないよ。
It was
He
mine.
blames himself for it.
怪異に責任を求めるのは間違っている。ただ単にそういう風
They're
に。
just here and that's how they are.
怪異にはお前はもう余計なことはあんまり考えるなよ。
The kaleidoscope, I love
それ
it.
はいいだけの話だ。まあ何かあったら相談に来いよ。何かな。何っていうか。男としての器を測られている。
Where's Senjukahara?
We need Senjikahara or Kambaru in here right now.
Okay.
Glaring. So she didn't say anything, but she was glaring. Interesting.
But why did Aragi even ask about it in the first place?
違ったって話か。なでこは人の視線には敏感だから。そういう荒木くんじゃない。何してる
Hanekawa.
の？そんなところで。ああ、羽川。こいつ昨日話した。
Aw.
Oh, that's the worst. That's so
Oh.
embarrassing.
今のが昨日話した妹の友達、戦国なでこ。
Oh no.
そうだ、荒木くん。あれからどうなったの？一応解決は見たよ。もうスピード解決だね。まあ、そんな感じだ。確かにあの制服、荒木くんの卒業した中学のやつだったね。お前は何でも知ってるな。
She only knows what she knows.
Yes.
知ってることだけ。今日は何か用があるって言ってなかった？ひょっとして荒木くんの誕生日って可愛い女子中学生とおしゃべりすることだ。違う。
Shut up, shut
大
up.
事な用ってのは戦場から絡みだ
Yes.
よ。照れくさいから言えなかっただけだ。面白い噂教えてあげようか。
Ooh, yeah.
戦場ヶ原は荒木と仲良くなってから態度がおかしく。
Wasn't she already acting
戦
strangely?
場ヶ原は荒木から悪影響
What?
No.
とか。荒木くんがどうして戦場ヶ原さんと仲良くなったの？これからはそういうこともっと言
Oh
わ
my
れると思うんだよね。
goodness.
言われる。だから大変だよ。荒木くんはこれからそうじゃないことを証明していかなく。
You're not taking her down the
男と
wrong
付き合っ
path.
てダメになったなんて不名誉な言い分を
Senjukahara's
戦場ヶ原さんに
honor.
関して許しちゃダメだよ。
Mm-hmm.
そりゃそう。とりあえず否定しておいたからそんなことはないと思いますよって。そっか。でも本当にそう思うか？そんなことはない。もちろん。
Never told a lie after all.
こう言えるやつを僕はお前より知らないよ。さあ、私戦場ヶ原さんはいい方向に向かってると思うんだよね。君のおかげなのかよくわからないけれどさ、戦場ヶ原さんの変化を
Change can be a good thing.
高校生離れしてるよな、お前は。そう、普通でしょ。
Perfectly normal.
Or she had to grow up too fast.
そういえば、あなた自身にはそういう相手がいるのだろうか。特定の一人というのはいるのだろうか。おい、ドラえもんの秘密道具。
She got a headache going down the stairs, right?
羽川、お前まさかゴールデンウィークの時みたいに。
Yes.
Was whatever the oddity was it cured for real or?
What's happening?
She's turning into a cat! She's turning into a cat girl! I'm upset that it hurts her though.
What?
It's almost like a possession.
She was possessed by a cat.
Cursed cat.
Silver cat.
触り猫というのが通例だね。現実に即した言い方をするなら多重人格障害だね。
Multiple personality.
裏の人格が現れた姿なんだ。
Oh shit, because she's trying to be a normal person, right? Black Hanekawa.
白いのにかよ。いつになく焦っているね。そこまで取り乱してなかったよ。で、黒い委員長ちゃん。つまり触り猫が現れるのには原因がある。その原因とはいわゆるストレス。
Stress.
ストレス。それも相当なストレスだろうね。大きなストレスだ。委員長ちゃんは何かストレスを抱えてなかったかい？
ブラック羽川は夜な夜な
Oh shit.
無差別に襲いかかった。
Attacked people
そうすることで羽川のストレスを解
to
消しようとしてい
relieve the stress.
た。猫の怪異としての特性は
Energy drain.
テレビゲームなんかによく出てくる触れたものの体力、勢力をこのエナジードレインによって入院するものまで出た。最も重体になった2人で
The first, and it was a man and a woman, and they were the
そして羽川のストレス
the
の
cause
原
of
因でもある
okay.
2人。
Uh-huh.
彼女の
Her
両親だった。
parents.
ゴールデンウィーク最終日5月7日。
Is he being chased by her?
There's not even like a memory of Araki.
even,
It's a
like-
completely different personality.
Can't even differentiate. Can't even recognize. My master's stress. It, feeling like a separate person.
Wow. What? Shinobu?
Wait.
忍この頃はまだ忍という名前はなかった
Wait,
が
what?
吸血鬼である彼女の特性もまた触り猫
Energy
の
drain.
エナジ
Okay.
ードレインだ。
That makes sense.
吸血鬼では怪異としての格が違う。
Vampire's top tier.
羽川のストレスの権化とも言える触り猫は忍のエナジードレインによって消え去った。羽川のストレスは
For the
一応
time being
解消された。
Reduced.
reduced.
こうして問題は解決した。
Not
But it's not like
entirely.
solved.
異常な痛がり方だったん
Okay.
だけど。羽川。
本当に大丈夫だってば。
That doesn't feel like something that could completely go away. Like, what if she gets really stressed again?
荒木くんはから心配しすぎだよ。結構気が小さいところあるよ。
Hmm.
荒木くん、もう優しいね。荒木くんは。荒木くん、戦場ヶ原さんのことちゃんと
She puts other people first all the
だ
time.
けじゃダメなんだよ。実践しなきゃ。
What a wild
She's
way to
almost
give
being
us that.
similar to Araragi. Like, feels like he can't return to normal.
Yeah.
And her normal is focusing on other people's lives being happy.
Right.
私の言うことが分かったって言っては荒木くん。
なんだ。
宝物みたいに抱えてる そのブルマーとカバンにしまうくらいのことはしたらどうかな。
Good advice. Oh, look at her!
Okay, that was Bakemonogatari Season 1, Episode 11. First thing that I want to do is read the titles that we get at the beginning of the episode. Hanekawa is an important person to me. It's my biggest op. It's hard, even impossible, to replace her with anyone else. I owe her. No. I owe her a lot. I probably won't ever feel like my debt to her is repaid, no matter what I do. Hanekawa. The girl with deformed wings. A class rep among class reps. The class rep chosen by God. She is liked by teachers and also popular in her class. In addition to being no nonsense, she has a habit of helping people. I wonder who that sounds like. This may not be the right way to say it, but all of that is unbelievable when you consider what I learned about her family during Golden Week. Enchanted by a cat just like I was attacked by a demon. There's always a reason for oddities. In this case, the dissension and distortion in the family that brought her up was plenty a good reason. Hanekawa offered her hand to me during that spring break. Even though she had far too many problems of her own to worry about another, she nevertheless pulled me up from the deepest pit. And I think that's it. Fall pressure, fall pressure. I'll never forget that no matter what. Damn. Dude, okay. Firstly, it is wild that it has been so long for us to get more, exposition and the idea of what happened to Hanekawa, because it was one of the, if not first things that we saw in this entire series, was the memory of her looking like Black Hanekawa.
I think that something about writing relationships and dynamics between characters, if the characters know each other before the start of the events that you're showing in the story, like before the plot begins of whatever it is, a book, a manga, a show, sometimes it can seem like a challenge to so quickly, right at the beginning, showcase a dynamic of a friendship of people who have known each other for a long time without it being kind of jarring or hard for a reader or audience to feel that these characters have known each other for a long time. And I think that it's actually incredibly effective way to structure Hanekawa in this story as a character, with giving her to us as more of a almost in this like godlike presence, in the same way that Oshino holds in the story, of being a person that Aragi goes to or has advice conversations with, someone that knows the world but almost still has their own secrets. And what we're really showcased with them is not, oh, this person's entire dynamic and story passed with this person before the events of the show started. It's more just, we can hold on to one connector. Okay, these people, we can tell here that this is a person that's trusted by Araki, that he really likes. Yeah. Or just the trust aspect. And because there's only one real aspect of the relationship that is immediately getting introduced, is much easier for us to then build those blocks of a solid foundation before the story started.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it much more fulfilling to us when we come to episode 11 and we're finally seeing what that structure building actually was of them creating a relationship and dynamic together.
Yeah, I was so curious as to see how they were going to approach the idea of Hanekawa not being aware, or if she is aware, not outwardly having dialogue about referencing her oddity experience. Like, we had the idea from Oshino about how she doesn't remember it. She chooses not to remember it in that way. And I was like, is it just like a suppression of like denial, like of you trying your best to not even acknowledge it because it isn't something you want to deal with or acknowledge? But it's so cool that it's legitimately just a different personality that manifested because of the stress. So there isn't that awareness.
But is that also a self-creation? Oh, is that to distance and disassociate and differentiate, to even have that second personality differentiate one as this is my master.
Yeah.
And I am this cat that is doing things to relieve stress for my master. And then Hanakawa not having memory or, of those events. Is that also in the line of thinking of a choice or even a subconscious
It's subconscious,
desire?
like, defense mechanism that you
to
are
disassociate.
Yeah, like it's you putting. I mean, look at who Black Hanakawa's first victims were, right? It's like, regardless of what Hanakawa thinks and how apologetic and defensive she's being on behalf of her abusive dad, like, that Black Hanakawa deep inside is like, I'm gonna get revenge for her. I'm gonna, like, make sure this doesn't happen again.
And we are given, like, I think you have it on the screen.
Yeah, I was about to say I wanted to reread what we were given from Oshino about the cursed cat.
How he phrases his view of this experience that Hanakawa has had.
If we're trying to ground this in reality, then I'd say it's kind of a multiple personality disorder, which is always fascinating. That's the interpersonality of your class rep manifesting itself. That's a really important line because of, in the beginning of the episode, when Hanakawa was describing her own experience, because of her knowledge of knowing that she was attempted to be given up for adoption, that she's trying to be the best kid, no, the most normal kid that she can.
And not a burden in the slightest.
And what is she suppressing by not being, or by forcing herself to be normal? Her inner personality, which then, am I to take how the cursed cat is acting in terms of, like, dialogue and action, half of it being that curse of a cat, but half of it being what she is truthfully like, what her personality actually is.
Right. These two lines of dialogue together, definitely, if you were given one and not the other, you'd maybe have a different thinking of what this is. Like, in the reality-based line, he's relating it to multiple personality disorder, which I don't know too much about it, but I'm pretty sure in those cases, an alter personality is introduced to almost be like a protector initially to the person that is maybe gone through a trauma, and this other personality comes in that almost kind of saves that person from having to experience or remember the things that are traumatizing. And that is one way to look at it. But then the next line, bringing up the idea of, like, this is a manifestation, it's reminding us that we are talking about this not in the reality sense, but in the oddity sense. Like, he's making sure to make it clear here that he was relating with that last line what you could compare it to in reality.
Yeah.
But here it really is an oddity in this case.
Yeah. Interesting. I wonder if the nature of which it was brought up in this episode, not only it being so far ahead of the time that Golden Week occurred, but us seeing a solution to Black Hanekawa being Shinobu draining that energy, and then giving us, like, okay, but the headache's different this time. It could be that, but it's different. It makes you wonder, with the title of next episode given to us as well, is it actually gone, or is it reintroduced in a separate but similar way?
There are two in this. I love this conversation we're having right now here, because there are two lines that I want to bring up from this episode to help us theorize an answer to that question of, are these headaches different? The first line is that she tells us she would never tell a lie.
Yeah.
And we have an interesting reaction from both of them. You know, we get, like, kind of showcase of just a physical little body movement on both parties in this conversation right after she says she'd never tell a lie. And the other line is when she is telling us about her family situation, and she brings up not wanting to be a burden.
Yeah.
That's on anyone, not just the parents. That's on anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It is why she's so deflective of her problems. She's like, okay, move my problems out of the way. Aragi, what are you up to? Oh, let me think about and analyze your relationship with Senjigahara and make sure you guys are on a good path. Like, those two lines together lead me to think that these headaches are the same as they were during the Golden Week situation.
And giving, like, what we've set ourselves up to go into next episode with isn't an interaction with Hanekawa, it's one with Senjigahara. If Araragi goes and does whatever they have planned with Senjigahara, and Hanekawa comes up, and there is that desire to save Hanekawa, then Hanekawa would look at herself like a burden, which would then potentially further the stress of being a burden, which would then reawaken the Black Hanekawa.
Right. Hanekawa knows that Aragi has plans with Senjigahara this evening, that they are having this conversation. If she is in a place physically where she is in need of help, she especially is not gonna want to ask him for it when she knows that he has plans with his girlfriend and she does not want to be a burden on that.
Yeah.
And so it definitely could lead, with her not wanting to be a burden so much to him and involve him in her problems, it could lead to an exasperation and like an actual, like, maybe she was holding it in fine, but maybe in this moment, if she keeps herself from calling for help when she especially needs it, it could push over the edge. It could open up the fact that now she needs Black Hanekawa to come help relieve the stress.
What is your interpretation of what Black Hanekawa was about to say in these lines of dialogue? Until my master's stress is completely gone, I won't be going anywhere. And speaking of which, if that stress is not relieved in a year...
Does that make you think that it's a permanent, that she'll just forever be Black Hanekawa if it's not relieved in a year?
I mean, I wonder if...
Like, are we saving the host? Like, are we thinking about it like a parasite in a host then?
I wonder if her plan of, like, taking a break before school and traveling is that hope of release of stress and pressure, you know?
Right. Is the year timeline because we know that she has desires and plans to leave for herself.
And then, okay, this was crazy. Shinobu, no, she didn't have the name Shinobu at the time. So, like, Shinobu wasn't identified as Shinobu whilst the incident of Araragi being turned into a vampire happened.
What did I forget what Shinobu means, but I remember in the first episode or two, we talk about why we named her that and, like, what it means. And it was something like not
immortal anymore, Shinobu, husk of a vampire.
I almost remember them talking about what Shinobu meant and why they named her that.
I have a timestamp of 2024, and next to that timestamp I have what Shinobu is. And I'm like, fuck, is that it? Is that what, like, when it tells me what Shinobu means?
I think we should probably look it up, because obviously if you're gonna give someone a name, like, we're being told in this scene, there wasn't a reason until this moment to name Shinobu. Yeah. Which gives you, of course, her name would hold... Why would you... If you're finally going to name someone after a pivotal moment of them basically saving your life, you're going to pick a name that is purposeful in terms of its meaning.
Yeah. When you look it up just online, it gives endurance, perseverance, patience, purify, belief, intention, belief. Interesting.
Why do I feel like it had something to do with, like, a heart or a sword? I could just be totally off. Maybe it was because it was, like, she's a husk of a vampire and she doesn't have a heart. And that's why I'm, like, focusing on those words.
I remember there being, like, a blade. Like, a heart blade or something.
There was,
okay. I can't find anything else. But I remember there being, like, a blade or a heart blade or her having, like, the sword.
Well, depending
Oshino
on how
brings up, like, even Oshino's sword couldn't do this.
I mean, we've had lines of dialogue in this series that kind of talks about how different kanji can be read in different ways.
Yeah.
Or if you change it slightly, it completely changes the meaning. And And so maybe there's something with how the kanji of Shinobu was written that involves multiple kind of sub-words then put together.
Interesting.
But that would be interesting to find out exactly if we're just like, it could just be one of those moments where we're like, yeah, they totally told us why they named her Shinobu, and maybe they didn't at all.
Yeah. But in your mind, before this episode, when you were trying to link the events of Hanekawa and what her past was like, was it in line and happening parallel with Araragi's affliction of being a vampire with Shinobu, or were those two things separate?
I always figured
separated?
He was first.
That's fair.
I always figured that his run-in with the vampire is the catalyst to why he once he felt like he couldn't be normal ever again, or shouldn't ever be normal ever again, is the moment that he began to kind of force himself into these situations to help others. And I think that it's cool that we previously, through Hanekawa, have been given reason to compare the emotional state of both Araragi and Senjigahara to each other in terms of these ideas of building up walls around themselves and kind of making it so their interpersonal relationships, they never got like too close on a certain level with people, because they always wanted to keep themselves almost in this position of the not normal.
Yeah.
And leave me alone. Don't get too close. But really, what we're seeing in this episode is this character that identified two other characters being similar might actually be more similar to Araragi, and or more of an exaggeration of Araragi and some of his kind of personality traits. We have Araragi as this almost isolated observer to some extent. He is a character that we're identifying as the type to maybe build up walls around himself, but he still inserts himself into other people's lives. He does not view himself as someone that can live a normal life, therefore he tries to ensure the happiness of other people around him. But he is a character that we have now seen build friendships and have a relationship. In this episode, he has a line wondering if Hanekawa is able to have a special person for herself. And that's why I want to say that Hanekawa might be an even further, like everything that I've just said about Araragi, Hanekawa is that, but even more exaggerated. Hanekawa is actually isolated. Hanekawa is actually keeping herself distanced interpersonally from everyone else and only caring about everyone else's business. She also believes she's not allowed to have a life. It might be a different reasoning or a different line of thinking, but I think with her not wanting to be a burden to people and not going home and just inserting herself into other people's lives, it is more and more an example of almost she does not view herself as someone that is allowed to do anything other than just exist in a way that is not hurting anyone else.
Yeah.
All she can do is observe and maybe give some advice, but at the end of the day, she has to go do her studies and then just not go home.
Her life is don't cause a problem for anyone else.
Until the time that she can leave.
Damn. In talking to Nadeko about Shinobu, we got a couple lines of dialogue about Nadeko's observations that I want to try to find and read.
She was glaring?
Yeah.
Okay.
But also I thought that it was interesting to note, and I love that, like, Araragi's the first one, like, goes out of his way to be like, no, it wasn't Shinobu's fault that this happened. Oddities appear because there's a reason for them too. And
we've kind of been given that for the most part, every oddity we've been given has either been called upon or whatever has been desired by the person that the affliction happens to, or by someone sending that affliction to someone else.
Yeah, and it obviously brings up the question, what was the intention and reason from Araragi that brought upon Shinobu in the first place? Which it might be able to, like, we might be able to discern a little bit from the conversation with Nadeko about she was constantly glaring at me.
He's not exempt from what we've learned through this series.
I feel like her eyes were different when she was looking at you and Oshino compared to when she was looking at me and Kambaru. Like, you bring up the gender there, right? Or Araragi does.
Yeah.
Are you saying that she looks at men and women differently? Do you get anything from that?
I think that's too simple. Maybe. Like, I don't want to go there as my main guess or main theory. Also, mainly because that's what's being given to me by another character.
Mhm.
Them posing that as the reason makes me even more so want to start thinking of other reasons that it could be.
Yeah.
It could be
Like causing problems versus solving problems. Like in Oshino and Araragi are two people who go out of their way or like are directly helping people, whereas these other people could be seen as like giving Araragi another thing to have to do, you know?
Yeah, I would see Shinobu maybe would view Oshino positively because Oshino can protect Araragi, and Shinobu can also protect and do good things for Araragi.
Yeah.
And any other person, it makes you start to think that scene we saw episodes ago when Araragi's about to go fight Kanbaru, and we have Shinobu sucking his blood. In that moment, now, with the kind of maybe an emotional context we're getting here, even with her then protecting Araragi from Black Hanakawa,
Yeah.
makes you think that maybe she was a little bit wary of even sending him in that room herself.
Mhm.
Like, she's doing what she, like, I almost took it more of like, oh, of course she'd drink his blood if he's offering it to her because she's a vampire. But that's absent of me thinking that this vampire has any desire other than bloodlust.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was helped by the language of husk of a vampire.
Araragi would have been dead by now if not for his vampiric like abilities. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And also without Shinobu interfering. Now we've seen it twice.
Yeah.
So it does make you think that there's something here that's deeper. They really maybe do have a symbiotic relationship like we thought that they
Mhm.
might have after the fighting Kanbaru episode. We had started talking about that. Like, okay, is this something of a I'm keeping you alive, you're helping me stay the way that, like, you know,
Yeah.
that there's a mutual agreement thing happening here that's beneficial for some reason to the desires of both parties.
Yeah.
And now even I think that I like the theory that Shinobu would maybe glare at people that she views as causing more stress in the stress way. Like Hanakawa turns into Black Hanakawa because of wanting to relieve stress. We have the line of dialogue that a vampire does a very similar thing in terms of an attack. It is an energy drain attack. Interesting that their attacks would be framed in the same way, in the same light. Even though they are tiered differently, vampire is stronger.
Yeah.
So that could then have me segue to the idea that this, what Aragi now calls a pseudo-vampire, it wants to exist or now exists in order to aid in relieving his stress or would be upset about him being in distress.
Yeah. Do you think Hanakawa is in love with Araragi? The only reason I bring that up is just because of like the opening lines, like the OP, right, in this episode for Hanakawa.
Right. And Kanbaru had an opening that was very much about love, which at first, before we got any of her backstory, we're like, okay, who's she in love with? Araragi or Senjugahara or both of them? Like,
I don't think I would have brought that up in the slightest if it wasn't for the lyrics in the opening, or at least the lines that we get from the opening, because narratively it doesn't feel like we're going in that direction. But
also we know that Nadeko has an actual crush on Araragi, which then opens up more reason why you could think that Hanakawa might also have feelings. Like, there are multiple characters in this universe that have feelings for him, and or we at least suspected at one point did.
Who do you think plays Hanakawa in the opening? How do you get that role?
You just pick a random person on the street and you're like, hey, pose for these black and white videos and pictures.
That's so
And
interesting.
in post, I'm gonna put little like pyramid cat ears on you. I was still wanting to talk about one thing, but then now I'm like, my mind went blank because we were talking about the opening.
Gotcha. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I hope that, you know, Aragi's able to get away with the truth of why he has this. Did you remember?
I still wanted to talk about whether or not she had feelings for him.
Gotcha.
My last thing that I wanted to say about that is that at the end of the day, it would not matter if she did, because of how she views herself in this world.
Yeah.
And that is, or at least how I'm theorizing, she views herself in this world as someone who wouldn't want to be a burden to someone else, and she would view herself having feelings for someone else as a burden to them.
Yeah.
So her liking him, it does not affect too much, I would say.
That's fair.
Because it's not like she would act on it.
Yeah. I wonder if Aragi's going to get away with his excuse for having the uniform. Even though it was true.
There's going to be some amount of banter that is said to him from Senjigahara if he still has it.
Yeah.
And or if someone else, let's say that Kanbaru really like came back and like took some sneaky pictures of Araragi,
Yeah.
and then picking up the little skirt scene and then sends them immediately to he needs to be more careful.
Yeah.
He's gonna get murdered by his girlfriend.
I'd love to see it. All right, you good?
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We hope to see you next time.